When you're faced with acute stress, so for example, you see a child running into the street and you rush very quickly to stop them from being hit by an incoming car, or you yourself narrowly avoid a car accident, this would be, I guess, an acute stress response. The response is brief, it's temporary, and basically it's your body kicking into this mood to get you into safety very quickly to neutralize the threat. So in that situation, we can see that actually the stress response is very positive. It's really to keep you safe. However, when we are in situations where this threat becomes prolonged, it's frequent, it's there all the time, then it can become very problematic. Hello everyone, welcome back to Travel Light. It's your friend, Dr. Unoma. I hope you guys are well. Welcome back to the channel. To my new friends who are just joining for the first time, I am Unoma, and I'm a psychiatrist based in sunny Glasgow, Scotland. I can actually say that because it's actually sunny for once. And more importantly, I'm a Jesus girl. I know how much he loves us, and I know that care extends not just to our spirits, but to our souls. He cares about our emotions, our thoughts, our minds, and I know he wants us to walk in freedom in this area. And so this is what Travel Light's all about, guys. Right here, we're exploring mental and emotional health through the eyes of our Good Shepherd. We're all here on a journey, exploring what it looks like to give God access to that space. He tells us that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. So yeah, let's live freely and lightly. If this is your first time here, or if you've been watching this content for a while and you haven't subscribed yet, I would like to invite you to do that, because it means every time new videos come out, you are first to know. So take a second and just subscribe right now, all right? Yay, thank you. So for those who've been following, we have been chatting a lot about emotions and things, and we have done a bit of a deep dive on that. And now I want to kind of pivot a little bit. I want us to talk about something I think is really, really important. I feel that the way life is moving right now, I mean, one of the reasons why I started Travel Light was, as somebody living in the 21st century where life should be easier, okay, because we have everything now helping us. We have technology moving at the speed of sound, light, or whatever, as I said before. Life is super high tech, and even now we're hearing about being able to have an AI assistant, for goodness sake. Yet, for some reason, we seem more stressed out than ever. For some reason, these things that are meant to make life easier for us aren't necessarily helping. And in fact, it feels that we're probably in much more hurry than ever, actually. And I know I sound like a grandma, right? I'm like, in my day, we did not, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, I think we should have a conversation about stress. So let's go together. So why do we need to look at stress? So I was doing some prep for this episode, and I went on the website for the Mental Health Foundation. So you can check it out, and I will put the link in the description. They had or carried out a poll in 2018. It was a YouGov poll of over 4,000 respondents, and their website touts it as the largest known study of stress in the UK. So it's for the UK population. And yeah, some of the facts are pretty scary. So let me read a few for you so you can get where I'm coming from. So the questions they asked were relating to how people felt in the year leading up to the poll, so the year before. Now, of all the 4,619 respondents, which I have to say is quite a good number, 74% of people said they felt stressed to the point that they felt overwhelmed and unable to cope. 74%. 46% reported that they ate too much or ate unhealthily due to stress. I think I may be one of those people. 29% reported, so that's almost a third, reported that they started drinking or increased their drinking. 16% reported that they started smoking or increased their smoking. Wow. Now, more than half, or just over half, 51% of adults said that they felt stressed, reported that they felt depressed as well, and 61% of them reported feeling anxious as well. So yeah, pretty scary stuff. And I'm going to read you a bit more, not to frighten you, but just give you a picture of what life is looking like at the moment. Of all the people who said they had felt stress at some point in their lives, 16% had self-harmed, and 32% said they had suicidal thoughts or feelings, or they'd had those. And finally, the last one I want to highlight was that 37% of adults who reported feeling stressed reported feeling lonely as a result. Yeah, I think that's pretty significant. And I have to say that these findings were before we had that major life-changing global pandemic in 2020. So yeah, I wonder what things will look like now. So now I feel, in fact, this is my experience, and this is even from studies. Stress is such an insidious, subtle enemy, and a lot of the times we're not aware that we're actually going through stress, and it can have really profound negative effects on our health and our well-being, our relationships and our quality of life. And I think we should really have a discussion about it. So in this episode, we will be discussing really what stress is, the different ways it rears its head, and the impact of stress. And this is a series, so I'm going to kind of do an overview today, and then we're going to carry on from there. So hope you're all ready. So what is stress? And I think we all kind of know what it is, but you know me, I'm a geek. I like to make sure we're all on the same page. The WHO describes stress as a state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. Quite simply, it's the body's reaction to feeling threatened or under pressure. And when we think about stress, particularly in medicine, we think of stress being actually primarily an adaptive response, meaning it is something your body does to help you react and actually adapt to changes in your environment, to challenges in your environment so that you survive and you thrive. So your body has an inbuilt mechanism for responding to when it feels that there is perceived threats. So for me, a surefire way to get me activated is to have a dog beside me. I am better now. But if you're from Nigeria, born in the 80s, I think you know what I mean. When we were kids, well, when I was a kid, I could speak from my experience. Whenever I saw dogs, it was really people telling you you shouldn't walk into their homes or else you get killed by the dog. That was me anyway. So every time I see a dog, I have to really remind myself I'm not going to die or something. I'm slightly exaggerating, but I think we get the point. So whatever the stressor is, so be it a dog, be it heights or whatever, the brain sends signals to your nervous system and it kicks you into this fight or flight response. And stress hormones like adrenaline get released, and basically those hormones get your body to either confront this stressor, like the dog, or run away from it. And I really was thinking about this, and this is just me having random musings. I was wondering, if we were still in the Garden of Eden where there was no stress per se and things were all golden and whatever, I wonder if we would have needed this response. But I guess God knew what he was doing, and he prepared us for life like this. And yeah, it did actually make me think God is wonderful and he prepared for every eventuality. It's amazing. But we will delve deeper into the biology of stress in later episodes. But the point being that actually the stress response, if I can say that properly, should be protective more than anything. I'll break it down a wee bit more. Now, when you're faced with acute stress, so for example, you see a child running into the street and you rush very quickly to stop them from being hit by an incoming car, or you yourself narrowly avoid a car accident. This would be, I guess, an acute stress response. The response is brief, it's temporary, and basically it's your body kicking into this mood to get you into safety very quickly to neutralize the threat. So in that situation, we can see that actually the stress response is very positive. It's really to keep you safe. However, when we are in situations where this threat becomes prolonged, it's frequent, it's there all the time, then it can become very problematic. Now, this is chronic stress. So, some of us, if not all of us, are probably in environments where we are basically having persistent perceived threats, so lasting weeks, months, or years. And this is really, really dangerous. We get exposed to, for example, prolonged financial difficulty, difficult personal relationships, maybe toxic work environments, things like that. This stress response is on all the time. And practically speaking, it's like your body is in this fight or flight mode, even without you being aware. And that can have really profound negative effects on your mental and physical health. So when I think about stressors, I think it's really important to stress that everybody reacts to things very differently. For some people, things as innocuous as Christmas. So, for example, I love Christmas. I love it when it comes. However, like my sister-in-law, until I said so, she gets really stressed at Christmas because she's like, oh my gosh, I have to make food, present, all that kind of stuff because it comes with, all the bells and whistles and things. So everyone responds to stress differently, to different stressors differently, and actually to varying degrees. And stress can come from a variety of sources. So environmentally, it can come from your physical environment, from your work environment, from your church environment, even socially, from your marriage, from like really difficult family dynamics. And so psychologically, if you're worrying a lot, if you're ruminating about things, having anticipatory anxiety, or if your finances aren't wonderful, these things could contribute to sort of general stress. And the truth of the matter is some of us really do underplay stress, right? Or underplay the sources of stress. And for that reason, we could become unaware of what's really going on inside our minds, inside our bodies. Another one I wanted to highlight as well was really major life changes. So this is something I think we often underplay as well. And when I was training in my sort of junior years as a psychiatrist, we learned about this really big study that was done in 1967. So two psychiatrists called Thomas Holmes and Richard Ray, I'm sorry, I probably mispronounced that, Rahe. They examined the medical records of over 5,000 medical patients, basically to figure out whether stressful events were contributing to illness. And they asked people basically to tally a list of 43 life events, and basically they came up with scores about what would be the most stressful to the least stressful based on how people responded. And that resulted in this big rating scale called the Holmes and Ray stress scale, or also known as the social readjustment rating scale. And since then, basically there's been validation that actually there's been links between stress and illness. I think we all know that actually, that stress isn't good for us. But looking at the life change index, so on the very, very, very top of what could really bring stress and have a real impact on our well-being is death of a spouse. And I think that makes sense. Next would be divorce. Following that would be marital separation. Following that would be jail term. Another after would be death of a close family member. And following that would be personal injury or illness. And following that is marriage. Like marriage itself is stressful. I actually remember when I was getting married, of course, a joyful time. And, I was getting married to the love of my life and everything. But my goodness, getting people to be on the same page, negotiating between both sides of the family, getting your wedding dress, trying to stay skinny so you could look good on the day. All that stuff, it was really stressful. And I remember after our traditional wedding, I was done. Like we're cooked, and then we had the so-called white wedding or church wedding. And after that, I was like, I'm so glad we have our honeymoon to go to, because the whole thing, whilst amazing, was uber stressful. And anyway, going through the stress scale all the way down, you see things like even vacations. Everyone got stressed during vacations because remember, you have to get your travel insurance sorted out. Is your passport is it still valid? Have you got the necessary visas? Have you checked in? Are you going to sleep on time? Have you packed your bags? That's my one. I leave it till the last minute every time. Have you got your bags packed? Things like that. These things really can contribute to sort of stress. But again, these are changes in your life. So once again, everyone has their own unique backgrounds, core beliefs, upbringings, viewpoints, personalities, and we all differ in the way we, one, perceive stress and the way we react to it. So I, once again, want to stress, it is very important that we recognize the dangers of chronic stress. Acute stress, not necessarily a problem. The whole point is to get you going, to get you ready to confront the stressor or get away from it. However, when it's persistent, it's prolonged, or you're having a series of acute stressors, very frequently, and your body, your system doesn't really get a chance to recover, that's not great, because you are in this persistent state of readiness. You're ready to go. And we were not built for that. If you are in that place where you are, experiencing chronic stress, or your body is in that place, The problem is, for example, your mental health becomes in increased risk of anxiety and depression. And if you're already diagnosed with an illness, it can trigger a relapse. So this is something I see a lot in my practice. When people had a diagnosis of schizophrenia for many, many years and have been stable, they're taking the same medication, everything else all being equals fine, and then something major happens, say for example, even loss of financial source or the death of a loved one, that can cause real catastrophe, because then, the equilibrium is disrupted and people go into illness and there's relapses. So that's your mental health. Even your memory can be affected, your concentration, your ability to process information and attention. You find yourself snappy, irritable. You don't want to be around your kids. Another big one that I see often, especially in my practice, is sleep. When people are stressed, they find it difficult to get to sleep. Did you know that a third of the UK population suffers from insomnia? That's crazy. I was having a chat with one of my mentees recently. We're talking about sleep because hers is, under attack, and because she has anxieties and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I would say no, sleep actually is a gift from God and it's not to be messed with, actually. So everything, all of your systems can be affected by stress. Your cardiovascular system as well. You can have your blood pressure raised without your knowledge for many, many years. I've seen this before, where people are walking around basically almost dead because their blood pressure is sky high, but they're not aware, and they are, I guess, coping until unfortunately there's a stroke or they develop heart disease. Another consequence of chronic stress would be your immune system being weakened. Have you noticed that there are times when you're particularly stressed and all of a sudden you become more susceptible to things like colds, whereas you may not have been before? And also your musculoskeletal system, so your bones, your muscles, all that kind of stuff. Have you noticed sometimes when you're stressed, there's tension, you go for a massage and then the person's kneading your back and she's like, oh, there's a knot there and there's a knot there, because you weren't aware that you were carrying so much tension in your body. And also stress is linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance. And these things are honestly insidious, slow killers, and we really need to pay attention to that. So yeah, a really brief episode today. But from today, I want us to take away some very key points. 1, stress is your body's response to pressure or perceived threat. And we do have a system built in us to be able to manage that so that we are taken into a place of safety and we adapt to the challenges in our environment. Stress can come from a variety of avenues. It can come from work, can come from your finances, come from your environment, from your relationships even. And everyone perceives stress differently and will respond to it in different ways. Now, acute stress is when we have immediate, it's an acute or immediate threat coming into your space, and your body basically responds to that because it has that system, as I mentioned, in it to help it adapt. And this should be short term. Unfortunately, for some of us, these acute stress responses can become too frequent, or they can linger so that we are in a state of chronic stress, where then the stressor is prolonged and is persistent. And now this is what I want to park on. Chronic stress can really harm your physical health and your mental health, and it can lead to conditions like heart disease and anxiety. Chronic stress is insidious. It is a nasty enemy of your body and your soul, and can have very damaging effects on your mental, physical health, and your quality of life. And the whole point of me doing this series, guys, is for us to understand stress and basically knowing how to manage it so that we can really navigate this modern life effectively. Technology isn't going away. This life is probably going to get ramped up even more. So it's time that as a people, as a church, as a population, we build resilience so that we are actually living well and thriving in the 21st century. So I'm going to leave you with the most holy words of the Good Shepherd as we round up today. Matthew 6:25-34. Every time I read this chapter in the Bible, I am so challenged because, my goodness, what a high call. Jesus says, "Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear? Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the fields grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, you of little faith? So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run away after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Wow. Thank you so much for joining in today. And we'll carry on the conversation in the next episode. Until then, I encourage you to keep traveling light. See you later. Bye.